Elon Musk's plan for the U.S. national debt explained. Imagine this. You're living in a house, but every month you spend more money than you make. You borrow from the bank to cover the difference, and the debt keeps growing. Eventually, you can't pay it back. What happens next? Well, your house could be taken from you. This is essentially what's happening with America's national debt right now. The country is spending more money than it earns, and the bills are piling up. Most people aren't talking about it, but some serious minds like Elon Musk are sounding the alarm. He believes that America is heading straight toward bankruptcy, and he's ready to take action. In this video, we'll break down why America's debt is such a huge problem and whether Musk's plan could actually work to save the country. America's growing debt problem. The United States has been borrowing money for decades, but things have gotten out of control in recent years. Back in 1999, the national debt was about $5 trillion. Fast forward to today, and it's ballooned to over $36 trillion. This is a 536% increase. If you look at the numbers, it's hard to ignore. America is in deep financial trouble. Elon Musk, known for his success with companies like Tesla and SpaceX, has warned that this kind of debt could lead to bankruptcy. But what does that really mean? Can the US actually go bankrupt? Or is this all just fear-mongering? What does the debt look like? In simple terms, national debt is the total amount of money the government owes because it's been borrowing more than it makes. Every year, the government spends more than it collects in taxes. This is called a deficit. In 2023, for example, the government spent about $6.16 trillion, but only collected around $4.47 trillion. The difference, about $1.69 trillion, had to be borrowed. Now, let's break down where all that money goes. Social Security. 20% of government spending goes to Social Security, which helps people who are retired or disabled. Defense and military. Another 20% is spent on the military. Medicaid. 15% goes to Medicaid, which helps low-income people get health care. Other assistance programs, 8% goes to things like food stamps, interest payments on the national debt. 11% is spent just paying the interest on all the money the government owes. And the rest? It goes to other areas like infrastructure, research, and various government agencies. The debt is out of control now. Here's the problem. Even if the government shut down all the non-essential programs like NASA, the Department of Education, and the military, it wouldn't be enough to fix the debt. If the US eliminated all discretionary spending, it would only save about $10 billion, while the national debt is $36 trillion. That's just a tiny drop in the ocean. So what's the solution? According to Musk, cutting government jobs and programs isn't the answer. The real issue is much bigger, and fixing it would require drastic changes that are not politically popular. The only way out of this mess would be raising taxes on regular Americans and businesses, cutting major programs like Social Security and Medicare, inflation, allowing the value of money to decrease over time, which would make it easier to pay off debt, but hurt everyday people's savings and buying power. These changes would be incredibly unpopular and painful for most Americans. So, solving the debt problem isn't just about slashing government programs. Why it's so hard to solve? Elon Musk may have the experience of streamlining businesses, but the US government isn't a business. It's a massive operation with millions of employees, tens of millions of people relying on its programs, and countless rules and regulations. Even if Musk tried to run the government like he runs his companies, the challenge would be enormous. Most of the government spending isn't flexible. These are mandatory programs like Social Security and Medicaid, which the government is legally required to fund. Politicians know that cutting these programs would cause massive public backlash, and no one wants to be the politician who took away benefits from the elderly or the poor. The big problem: interest on debt. Another major problem is the interest the US government pays on its debt. The US borrows money by selling bonds, and those bonds come with interest payments. In 2023, the government paid about $400 billion just on interest, and as interest rates rise, this payment will only increase. The US can't stop paying interest on its debt. It's like paying interest on a loan. If it doesn't, creditors, the people who lend money, could stop trusting the US to pay back its debts. This could lead to a financial crisis, so the government has no choice but to keep borrowing and paying interest. Elon Musk's plan. Can it work? Elon Musk has been vocal about his criticism of the government and its wasteful spending. He suggested that he could fix things by streamlining operations, cutting out inefficiencies, and reducing the number of government employees. While that might work in a company like Tesla or Twitter, it's unlikely to work for the federal government. Musk has also pushed for the creation of a new government department, one focused on efficiency, to make sure taxpayer dollars are being spent wisely. But the truth is, even if he could streamline operations, the major spending areas, Social Security, healthcare, and the military, would still be there. These areas alone make up over 60% of the budget, and cutting them would create massive social unrest. So, can the US go bankrupt? The short answer is no. The United States prints its own money, so it technically can't default or go bankrupt in the way that a company or individual could. As long as the government can print more dollars, it can always pay its bills. However, this comes at a cost. Printing more money leads to inflation, which means the value of the dollar decreases and the price of goods and services goes up. This is why many economists believe the US can't default. It can just keep printing money. But the side effects of this, like inflation, can be harmful to everyday people, especially if their wages don't keep up with rising prices. Conclusion: the debt crisis isn't going away. Elon Musk's ideas to fix the national debt might sound ambitious, but the truth is that no easy fix exists. The US government's spending habits are ingrained in law, and eliminating or cutting major programs would lead to political chaos. Even if the government cut all discretionary spending, it wouldn't be enough to make a significant dent in the debt. The US won't default, but the price of fixing the debt problem will be felt through higher taxes, inflation, and painful cuts to important programs. While Musk's ideas may help streamline some aspects of government, the root of the problem is much deeper and more complicated than just trimming the fat. In the end, it's likely that ordinary Americans will bear the brunt of the cost, through inflation, higher taxes, and cuts to programs they rely on. It's a tough pill to swallow, but it's the reality we face if we want to avoid an even more dangerous financial future. Let me know in the comments what you think about the US debt crisis. and whether you believe Elon Musk's plan could actually make a difference.